Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight, it's my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Doing very well. That was a delightful day of NFL action. I think that's the word I'm going to go with. I really enjoyed today. Really excited to talk about some of these games on this show. Thought some interesting stuff happens, as always, in the NFL. It's never boring as much as people want to say it is sometimes. It is fantastic. So I'm doing very well. How are you doing today, Robert?
I'm doing great. We knew that there were going to be a bunch of good games today. There was really a premium game in every single time slot, including the Europe time slot, which is not always the case. And then we knew we had Seahawks-Ravens at noon, which we'll dig into. Cowboys-Eagles was fantastic. And then the game that we just watched between two contenders in the AFC. So let's start with the game that just finished up. Your immediate reaction to how Bills-Bengals unfolded tonight?
I'm feeling much better about where the Bengals are at, of course, and I'm feeling a little bit worse, or actually, I feel whelmed about the Bills' defense.
Yeah.
And I kind of was seeing this anyways, but this was kind of like confirmation. Like, they can't keep up with the big boys right now. Losing all those injuries that they've had, it just they've been decimated. It's just too tough. But on top of it, the Bengals offense operating like that, they've been on fire with their opening script. First 15 plays. And then you could tell the confidence they have in Burrow and just everything, the operation of this offense. That first play of the 4-minute drive to ice the game, they threw the ball straight drop back, no play action, just line up, drop back, and wing it. That's confidence. Only the confident offenses do that. So it's like that's how the Bengals feel right now. So that was my first takeaway. I was like, they're looking really good right now.
It's just so fun to watch him when he's playing at that level. The ball placement, just his ability to kind of be surgical in areas of the field where it should be really difficult to do that. We got that version of Joe Burrow tonight. And the play that you're talking about late in the game, he slides the protection and then pushes the ball down the field in the 4-minute drive. And they hit another one very similar to that earlier in the game, where he slides the protection to the right. He has Tyler Boyd kind of on that corner route. They get a huge chunk play out of it. So it was just every single aspect of the Joe Burrow that you want to see. Pre-snap operation, accuracy, ball placement, play extension, and guys making plays. I mean, T. Higgins bodied dudes up like 6 different times tonight, just posted up for a rebound in the way that we love to see from him. So I just thought that we're getting so close, if we're not all the way back there already, to the version of the Bengals offense that really does make them truly dangerous, even when we're comparing them to some of the best teams in the AFC. And on the Bills side of it, I'm with you. I just think that every single time the offense fell short tonight, it just felt so devastating because you knew they were going to struggle so much to get a stop on the other side of it.
Yeah, it felt like just the Bengals had the ball over and over. It felt like a ball control offense, but this is the Bengals version of doing it, which is just Burrow
throw the ball 45 times,
throw the ball and control the ball. It's wonderful. It's just really fun. Like you said, watching him operate the pre-snap operation, the protection stuff, and the Bills threw some funky stuff at them too. His post-snap extension, not only just confirming coverages, but then just also, extending plays with his legs. I mean, this is the true Burrow. This is 2 weeks in a row we're seeing this scrambles, the bouncing out of the pocket, and just those half dozen times he does it. It's so devastating. But on top of it, there was just a great example about 12 minutes left in the game. He hits a hole shot to Jamar Chase. Chris Collinsworth was like, "Oh, it's a cover 2-ish coverage because it's Palms again." Paul, that was that play, and Palms always screws guys up, but it was a blitz. But they brought the will linebacker in the corner from the weak side, and then ran cover 2 with it. And Teron Johnson was the nickel, and he's running back to be the deep safety, and that's tough. It's a nickel running back to be a deep safety, and I mean Burrow confirms the coverage and just whips that hole shot in there. So he anticipated the post snap disguise, or undisguised, I should say. And it's like, oh, you are just seeing it really well right now. That's how he felt. He felt so in control this whole game.
It's just so nice to see that version of him. And we talked about that a little bit last week, but the sport is just more fun when he's playing at this level and this offense is operating that way. Do we think that the Bills can figure this out? You get Rasul Douglas in the mix. Guys were in and out today. Von Miller, maybe, you continue to ramp up down the stretch. Do you feel like this is something that can fall into place for them? Or do we think that this is going to be a continuing problem here as we go through the rest of the season?
I'm worried about them against, the good offenses. Look at just at their schedule. Okay. Broncos and Jets, they're going to be kind Bills offense is going to be fine, even though those are tough matchups. But then Eagles, Chiefs, even Cowboys, and it's like, I don't know, of those defenses, like that defense, it's like that. It worries me a little bit. As much as I still think the offense is fine, even with like the Josh Allen interception, that was pretty brutal. That one was hilarious because his feet were truly going, no, 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 don't throw it. And he still throws it. And I was like, oh, I saw what you saw, but not that. But I am a little worried, but they feel more. I don't see him as a true contender because it's just this defense, how it looks like right now. I see him as
Really? So
I'm worried right now. It's just
I totally get it. It's just that's such a hard reality to or hard conclusion to come to because the flashes that we've seen from them are so high, but I don't blame you for feeling that way right now.
I feel
They're
like they're going to
banged
beat a
up
lot
and
of.
they're not playing well.
I feel like they're going to beat the bad teams. Like they're a good team. Like, don't get me wrong. I almost feel similar to them. Well, this is mean because I don't feel the Dolphins this way, but like the Dolphins a little bit like this, how I feel so good about their offense. And then the defense kind of worries me week to week against maybe better opponents, but I still think of them as good teams that can, play tough games against these really good opponents. So it's just really hard right now. I've seen it now a few weeks and seen how this defense is. And it's like, it feels average at best. Like Von Miller's not all the way back, even though he's playing a lot of snaps. He's not all the way back. So you don't have like, it's just it's not overwhelming right now. And that's why
The
I like
Bengals
the
edge
Bills.
rushers affected the game more today than the Bills defensive line did.
Absolutely.
Consistently.
Yeah. And so they're not really getting help there. He is going to get better as the season goes along. And that's what you hope for. I remember even before the season, I said that may be better because usually their guys get hurt, maybe getting reinforcements as the season goes along. But it's just watching it. It's just, I'm just not overwhelmed. And I just feel they feel average-ish. And I feel like the offense is good, but they can't overcome the turnovers. They lost -2 turnover differential. And that's hard. That's really hard when you're playing at this level against this elite competition.
Yeah, the Bengals had the second best passing success rate of the week. Only the Texans were better. It felt like that when you watched the game. You look at the AFC standings right now. The Bills are not in the playoffs if it were to start right now, only because the Jets are 4-3. So it's just they've both won one more game than they've lost, but just by virtue of winning percentage. But I do think that even as this looks very crowded, AFC North, you have 3 teams that are 5-3. I still feel the best, I think, about the Bengals and the Bills in that kind of wild card race. Like if I had to put money on it right now, I do think both of them still make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But what they can do after making the playoffs, I think then becomes the biggest question.
That's what I mean. I think they're going to win double-digit games. Like I think they're a good team still because they have Josh Allen, who I just named MVP last week in my article, and I still
justifiably.
Yeah, he's playing tremendous, and I do think the offense is doing some really sustainable stuff, even if they have a couple of blemishes. They're doing good stuff. I feel a little like this. Bengals are a contender type team. The Chiefs, like these top end teams, they're gonna face in the playoffs maybe multiple times if they want to win games. So that's why it's hard to like see them winning several playoff games, maybe make the playoffs and then win a game like that. But that's just how I feel about them right now.
The teams with winning records in the AFC that are not currently winning their division right now are the Jets, the Bills, the Steelers, the Browns, the Bengals. Those are the 5. I still feel the best about the Bengals and the Bills coming out of that 5.
Yeah,
I still do. Even though the Browns defense is obviously playing great, but I have more faith in the Bills offense combined with their defense than I do with the Browns currently. The Steelers, whatever black magic they can continue to pull off, congratulations to them. I have no idea what to make of them. And the Jets, I still just, I don't think you can rely on.
You're betting
on
units.
Can do in the long run. Yeah.
With flawed teams, you're betting on units, and I'm betting on the Bills offense with Josh Allen like that. And so I agree. And I think the Bengals are looking like this 2 weeks in a row. It's like, this is what we expected.
We're back, baby.
Yeah, we're back. So like that's why I'm just
back.
I'm not talking about them right now because I'm assuming with them. But
I agree.
Just with the Bills stuff. I mean, they had 4 losses this year by combined 21 points. So, some of the stuff's just not bouncing their way right now, but I do feel good about them, just not that top end level.
Especially when you contrast them to the way the Ravens look today. Or the way we know the Chiefs are probably going to look in the long run. I know there's a lot of consternation about the Chiefs offense. We'll talk a little bit about that later today. There's still been a top 5 unit this year, and the defense is playing the way that the defense is playing. So you look at a team like the Chiefs, you look at a team like the Ravens, it's so complete right now. And then you contrast that with where the Bills feel like they are. And then, the Bengals to a lesser extent. I think the Bengals defense is still going to have those flashes. They're one of those teams that you don't want to see in the playoffs because of what they could do to you in a 1-game setting. But it's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, I did not expect to be here 9 games into the season, 9 weeks into the season with a 5-4 Bills team, wondering what their ceiling was going to look like. But that's very much where we are.
this Bengals defense performance tonight was one of those where it's like, yeah, they don't have a ton of stars, but they have like just a lot of solid players. Because if you
It's
do
the
have
defense we
weakness,
know, man.
yeah, if you do have weaknesses, they're going to pick at it. They're smart enough to find it. Like tonight, it was like a little bit on the right side of the offensive line. You can see a lot of games happening there. So it's like they're going to find it. They're just pretty good at doing that stuff.
So let's get to the other great game from today. And that is what happened between the Cowboys and the Eagles today. I don't know where to start with this. We can start with maybe some of the game swinging 1 inch away plays for Dallas late in the game. I mean, if Dak doesn't step out of bounds on that 2-point conversion, if Luke Schoonmaker is 1 inch closer to the end zone, this game feels a lot different. But the Eagles again, and their stars made plays when it mattered. Their pass rush came alive when it mattered. Jalen Hurts had some fantastic moments in this game playing hobbled. I was incredibly impressed with just his overall toughness and some of the plays he made. The touchdown to Devontae Smith was one of the best throws you'll see this year.
So good.
Like just an absolutely incredible throw.
Yes.
And again, he had 3 or 4 of those moments again in this game. But I mean, this was back and forth the whole time. I mean, I think my biggest takeaway from this game is I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, I agree. I hope there's a third. I thought this was 2 good teams going at it. And again, this is when you watch, the Cowboys kind of defense got scored on a little bit. They tightened down a little bit in the second half as well. It's like, you feel these teams feel more complete. And the Eagles had moments in their spine. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I mean, this offense, it felt like the moments of last year were, because I feel like that they leaned into some of the stuff from last year. It felt like more go balls, the ISO ball stuff. It felt more the RPOs. AJ Brown's touchdown and Dallas Goedert's big play that he got hurt on.
Slide RPO to Dallas Goedert.
Finally,
I've been like a throwback jam.
Oh my goodness, they ran that so much last year, and I think I don't know, one game like they stopped doing it, like spooked them out of doing it this year, and then now finally let's get back to it. They had so many good plays off of it. And those are just easy buttons. They can, when you have awesome players, easy buttons look really good. You score touchdowns on them, you get 20-yard gains on them. They're awesome. But watching also just the launch, though, I'm glad he brought the Devontae Smith touchdown because that was awesome. Oh, and then also the corner route to Dallas Goedert on 4th down. That was another play that they used to spam last year. It's a corner and an under route. I call it cram. But it's just a little corner route, but they beat man coverage with that. And it's like, again, that's what they used to do over and over last year. So they played the hits and it sounded really good. I thought.
I'm so glad that you brought up the corner route, because I thought that entire sequence on that drive reminds me of what the Eagles are. They go forward on 4th and 1 from their own 31-yard line on that drive. They obviously get it. They have a 3rd and 15 that they get because of a sack. Slant to AJ Brown, 12 yards. They get to 4th and 3. They go for it again on 4th and 3, and they hit that corner route to Dallas Goedert, and they cash it in with a Kenny Gainwell touchdown.
That's great.
So that combination of, you got to stop us for 4 downs because that's who we are, and that corner route to Dallas Goedert, I was like, ooh, this feels like the Eagles. Like this feels like the Eagles team that you want to see. On that drive alone, that first drive, I looked this up, a touchdown worth of EPA from those 2 4th down decisions.
Oh,
their willingness to do that and their willingness to push it into the red, it's just such a consistent advantage. And Dallas was very good with those decisions as well today. They were really aggressive. They were keeping pace. They did a lot of things that you want to see. Dallas did a lot of things you want to see, period.
Yeah.
I know that the throw to Jalen Tolbert instead of the one to Jake Ferguson at the end is frustrating. I know that he takes a sack in that situation near the end of the game where it's really difficult to take a sack when you have no timeouts. The idea that Dak Prescott was not really good today is mind-boggling to me. He had 6 to 8 ridiculous plays out of structure, 3rd down, making something happen with his legs. Again, him playing at this level makes me feel so good about what this Dallas team is going to look like in the long run, even if they came up a little bit short today.
Just don't play the 49ers. That's it. That's all they have to do. That's all they have to do. I know, but he was on fire and using his legs, scrambling and extending, felt very much Mississippi State Dak or early career Dak.
Yeah.
They tried the double move on James Bradbury, but he got flushed out of the pocket. I almost nailed it first drive or second drive. It was like, almost called my shot there, hit off the wall.
They were hitting double moves, just not against James Bradbury, just against Eli Ricks.
Yeah, Eli. Oh my goodness. They had a couple plays. Oh yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna tweet him tomorrow. There's a couple of plays where there's some lost guys in coverage. I was like, oof. Yeah, CD on an island, which was what we thought. They had a ton of empty snaps today, the Cowboys did, and they're just putting in Dak's hands, and
Yeah.
he was just making play after play after play. I mean, even the flat route to Schoonmaker that came up like an inch short was a great throw. Schoonmaker is
fantastic.
late on the right. Yeah, and that was another one. It was man coverage. They brought Eagles brought a pressure on it, and that was he chose a matchup over a scheme moment. And that's what kind of stinks sometimes is when even the last one on the fourth down that you brought up to Tolbert was that he's going to CD there. And then the Eagles went one double on CD Lamb. And so his brain, and this is how you're taught, his brain automatically went, okay, take my automatic one-on-one, which is the X. So he just defaulted to scheme there. And that's like, it's fine quarterbacking. I understand why he did it. His brain is not thinking Ferguson on that. He just went CD. Oh shoot, he's double covered. Brr, X. And I know. I just kind of stinks.
I understand how that happens. I just know that if we didn't bring that up, 20 million Eagles fans were going to just be shitty to us on the internet over the next 12 hours. So I'm with you. I thought that he played great. That third and 14 that he had to CD on the right sideline where he escapes out of it. I mean, he had so many of those plays out of structure today. How do you feel coming out of this game? How do you feel about the secondary pass catchers for the Dallas Cowboys?
I think Ferguson's great.
So I'm offsetting the Ferguson shine today and him kind of rising to this moment with what's happening with everyone else.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can't really rely on Gallup. There's a lot of Jalen Tolbert being introduced here. I don't know where Brandon Cooks is at all times. So the emergence of Jake Ferguson today, combined with the way that they were using CeeDee Lamb, I'm like, I guess I feel better about it now than I did this morning, but I don't think I feel great about it overall.
Them and the Lions. It's power slots and tight ends and pass catching running backs. Let's make an offense out of it. It's great. I've been trying to. Ferguson's got some juice. He caught a little seam the other day, so I don't know if that's you want it as your field stretcher, but it works. I want to see more Tolbert. I think good things. I mean, I think he's not bad as like your third auxiliary pass catcher. The Cooks thing I'm trying to figure out. I think it's just that he's not getting just targeted a bunch. I don't feel like he's losing. I also feel like this offense isn't great for him. He's best on the move. That he's I would say more like the Jags would be a better fit for him. But then this offense is, stationary on the outside. That's why you saw the Tolbert route that on fourth down that got broken up, because that's a stationary route. That's a static route. So I think that I feel okay with it. I'm more worried about maybe just the poppy run game. They got to figure out kind of more at you run game would be my biggest worry with this offense, but I think they moved the ball just fine.
Yeah, I feel better about them now than I did this morning because of Ferguson, but I still just wish that they had one more.
I totally get it.
One more receiver that you could rely on.
I thought we get a little more out of Cooks. If I'm being honest, yeah,
I totally agree, and they just haven't, and that's a little bit frustrating to watch. And again, Terrence Steele had some rough moments today against Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat. Well, the last drive, right? Like Jalen Carter kind of gets him on the last drive after the wait. It's unfortunate that how visible that play was compared to how well he had played over the rest of the game. But Steele, there's a couple rough moments. So it's again though, this game is frustrating. If you're a Dallas fan, if you're the Cowboys, period. But I think you have to feel pretty good about what this says about what the rest of the season is going to look like. And with the Eagles, we know that already, right? I mean, just like those stars and the way that they can shine. And what Jalen Hurts did banged up today, and just kind of just willing himself to like 3 or 4 plays to help them win this game is truly impressive. Also loved his shoes. The Jordan 11s he was wearing. Just a fantastic look from Jalen Hurts today. And the outfit he wore to the game, if you guys have not seen that, highly encourage you to check that out.
The Eagles are setting a high standard, championship styles standard from the Eagles right now. I will say that. But no, he gets hurt end of the half and then comes out in the second half. And it was like I think he took off on a scramble. And it was kind of like he was like, yeah, screw you guys. I'm good. It was
a designed run.
It might have been designed run. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It might have been the slide play again where he just kept it.
I think it was a design run and he kept it. I mean, that guy is tough as shit, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. So it's just one more win for the Eagles, and they're sitting there at 8-1 going to the bye.
I'll say this, even though they didn't score like the most points they did this season, this is the best I felt about the Eagles offense.
I think that's totally fair.
Which is good because you're going against the Cowboys defense, and I'm saying that. So, and I feel good about where the Cowboys are at. So it's kind of funny how that kind of came away with that.
And again, it's stuff you don't really notice, but the pass protection consistently, I think, throughout this game for Philadelphia was pretty darn good. Again, I
Yeah.
mean, their offensive line just consistently shows up. And the last kind of bit of, oh, that's the Eagles I want to see that I did not mention from that first touchdown drive. When Gainwell finishes that play off, Jason Kelsey just folding on those plays and playing out in space. That's just, again, something that only they do. So you get the corner out to Goddard, you get going forward on fourth down twice and getting it, and then you have Kelsey in space finishing that off. And it just is such a little boiled down version of that's what this team is at its best, and man, is it fun to watch.
And a Devontae Smith touchdown and AJ Brown touchdown. It's like, they play the hits. It was perfect.
All right, it's time for You Have My Attention. Let's get to it.
Gentlemen, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Every Sunday, there's just a wall of stuff coming at you, especially in the first two slates of games. So we like to pick out a couple of performances that really made us take notice. And let's start with the Baltimore Ravens.
Remember? Oh, man.
I kind of dumb, right? I'm watching that game. We had such a long conversation about the Seahawks offense earlier this week and about how so much of the worry and the panic from Seahawks fans is probably overstated. They're actually really good. They do a lot of good stuff. I watched this game. I was like, man, I feel like an idiot. And I went back and I rewatched it. And I'm like, it's not that bad, right?
No,
it's not that bad.
It's not.
But the Ravens are so good that it can get away from you so fast.
Yeah.
And this was one of those games where the defense gets 1, 2, 3, 4 stops. The Seahawks average distance to go on third down today was 9.75 yards. I mean, how hard they were consistently making it on their offense. Pocket just condensing, collapsing consistently, nowhere to go, no one open. And then you flip it to the offense, and Lamar is playing at an MVP level. He has been all season. Today, they ran for 300 yards.
Yep.
They ran for 298 yards. They had a 50% rushing success rate. And that's what makes them so scary, is that your 2 or 3 short-circuited drives with a defense that's playing at a historic level away from this game getting completely out of hand, because their offense can hurt you in so many different ways. I just thought this was another display of everything they have to offer. And right now, they have as much to offer on both sides of the ball as any team in football.
Oh, yeah, I think they're the best team in football. I mean, they just are everything. Like you just said, they do everything on offense. I was trying to kind of like have like a little narrowed down note of like, oh, it's do hard. This, they do everything, play action, quick game. Like run the ball. They run every type of run play. They got QB run game. They got different running backs in there. They got a speed guy now. It's like tight ends getting targeted. It's like everything, anything you can think of, they run. But I would say on offense, they really the zone read stuff, or not zone read, but the QB read stuff, the QB run game with Lamar, they really targeted Mafe from the Seahawks. Oh my God. They ran it at him every single time. So that's why all those runs were at his side. He had a nice play. I think he got the strip sack later.
He did.
It was all, they were, so he was crashing so hard, but they weren't scrape exchanging, which is the linebacker comes over the top. So then like Ricard was just climbing up to pin like Bobby Wagner, and so like Lamar was just skirting out the side. It was just like it felt like the Colin Kaepernick game against the Packers in the playoffs. That's where it felt like a couple of those plays. But I want to talk about the defense and some of the fun stuff they did on third down. They held them to 1 for 12 on third down, which is saying something because I actually like some of the Seahawks stuff. And the Seahawks only got 47 plays, but this is kind of like some teams are really leaning into this. The Vikings are doing this a lot too. A lot of guys at the line of scrimmage, a lot of cover zero looks, or really quarters-ish cover zero looks, and then bailing out of it or pressuring or simulated pressuring and doing everything out of it. And it's messing with some quarterbacks and the receiver timing because it's changing like angles that everyone's coming at. But they're also doing they did some 3 safety looks today, which was awesome. Like they had Daryl Worley in the middle, Kyle Hamilton and Geno Stone on either side. Anyone who watches soccer, it's like a 3 center back look. And I want to talk about one play, and then I'll wrap it up. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the whole thing here. But the 3rd and 11 play call in the first quarter that Geno was sacked on by Matabike was awesome. 3 safety looks, so they're all back there, which messes up Geno a little bit. It's a blitz. They bring Patrick Queen, who's off the ball. He crosses the center's face, which is always annoying. Then Roquan Smith from the line of scrimmage, from the right guard, drops all the way to the first down marker, covers JSN's route, and then they run like kind of a cover 3 look off of it. Geno has to hold the ball because he's like, oh shoot, they covered it. And like they perfectly matched all the routes. And then on top of it, because the blitz look was kind of funky, the tight end and the running back both stay in, so no one gets out on a check down. So he has to eat the ball, and then that's how a sack gets created. But that's coverage tying in with pass rush, creating with some funkiness.
That's how it felt all game.
It was
every single time he had to look beyond his first read. Every single time it was like, all right, I got to move off this. It was over. It was over every single time. And that marriage of rush and coverage was on display throughout this entire game. And I know that the Seahawks offense looked terrible today, but even that 2 for 11 or whatever that number was on third down, JSN drops a ball on their first drive.
Right.
They had 3 passes deflected at the line of scrimmage. It was just a rough day overall, combined with how great the Ravens defense was playing. So I wanted to look up the numbers just about how good this Ravens team has been, compared to not only the defenses we're looking at this season, but historically. So they are allowing 1.1 yards per drive, or 1.1 points per drive. That is what the Ravens are allowing this season. Okay. 13 defenses since 2000 have allowed that number or less. And those defenses that we're talking about, 2000 Ravens, 2008 Ravens, 2008 Steelers, 2005 Bears, 2002 Bucks. These are the types of teams we're talking about when we're discussing the production that the Ravens defense has had this season. And they're not the star-laden unit, but they have guys contributing at every single level. I don't think it's weird to say that Geno Stone is playing at like an all-pro level at safety right now. He has been unbelievable. And the fact that you're getting those sorts of contributions with dudes like that who didn't even begin the season as starters, that's all you need to know about what this group feels like right now.
No, they have a lot of good and unique players. Like even Matabike is unique, Hamilton, and they're used so well. And it's great play calling, a great play design. Like even that example I just brought up, Patrick Queen is going forward, which is always better. And Roquan Smith is the one in coverage. And Roquan Smith is the keystone player of this whole scheme. Yep. He is amazing. And they can do so much stuff because he's so smart and versatile. And just that example was one of them. But he's truly a keystone player. And I mean, he is as valuable as any defender in the league right now. So watching him and then watching all these plus players and unique players, different tools getting used at different times and just seeing it get all unlocked, running a little bit of everything as well on defense. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. And then the offense is just awesome too, and varied with an MVP quality quarterback right now. It's a good team.
They averaged 0.31 EPA per rush today. For context, that's like MVP level quarterbacking. That's how efficient their run game was today. And Keaton Mitchell was the best player that they had on the ground. And they're running all sorts of runs. I mean, they're multiple pullers and they're running out of 11 personnel and just getting them in light bodies. The Seahawks had the 5th best run defense success rate in the NFL coming into this game. And the Ravens ran all over them. And then that's beyond with some of the stuff they were doing in the passing game. And it's stuff within structure where, it's a boot to Mark Andrews on the first drive, or it's Lamar replacing a blitz here or replacing a blitz there. But then it's also him scrambling, doing something a little bit out of structure. So it's just a combination of everything, the run game, the pass game, the stuff that's within the structure of the play, and the stuff that he's just creating on his own. It just leads to this feeling where their offense feels so in control because there's so many different ways that they can hurt you. And that was on full display today.
Lamar had a throw near the end of the half on 3rd and 6 to Mark Andrews. That was stupendous. I cannot wait to watch that in all 22. But again,
I can't wait to watch the defense on the all 22.
Yeah,
that is what I'm very much looking forward to.
Might be a wind the clock if they have anything. I think 3rd and 11 might be a juicy one. But watching this throw, and it's always what I kind of rave about usually with quarterback play. It's taking the high and the high low. He could have easily had the underneath route, the crosser. But again, he's getting the extra bases. Like he just turned a single into a double and he created another first down out of thin air. And that's awesome quarterback play. And the confidence that he played with, it was just like when we watched the Bengals offense talk about that for a minute, just to be able to do that in a 3rd and 6 and not feel rushed and actually be in attack mode. Yeah, it's some good stuff from Lamar and from his team.
Just looking through my notes right now. Like
Seahawks did have a fun use of motion. Seahawks did some interesting stuff too on offense. They just didn't click, but they did some fun motion stuff with the running back. That's interesting.
I feel like their offense is going to be okay. They got their teeth kicked in by the best defense in the league today.
Yeah,
and that can happen. We saw what they did to the Lions at home.
Yep.
This can absolutely happen. But there's a stretch in the second quarter Lamar finds space outside of the pocket on 1st and 10, comes all the way back across the middle of the field to Odell. There's a 10-yard gain on the next play to Keaton Mitchell. There's a crosser in structure that he hits to Zay Flowers. Great pass protection again, where the puller is picking up the blitzer, and then Edwards finishes it off for a touchdown. So it's just this combination of out of structure, in structure, run game, pass game. And I think one of the things that we have not mentioned that brings that all together that I thought they played fantastic today, their offensive line is really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the difference in how much time Lamar had to extend plays and work in the pocket today compared to how much time Geno had to extend plays and work in the pocket today. Geno's pressure on 54.5% of his dropbacks today, according to True Media, which was the highest rate in the NFL on Sunday. And it absolutely felt like that. And so that contrast was on full display. And I think the Ravens offensive line deserves a lot of credit for the pass protection side of it and all the work that they did in the run game today.
Yeah. Great. I love when you see like 3 or 4 different type of run concepts work, and it's just like, boom, okay, do this. Okay, now they have a polar on it. Okay, there goes Lamar. It's like that's when you know you're onto some stuff. There's I was gonna say the play that keeps coming to my mind when I picture this offense though is Lamar's throw last week when he was on one leg. I still think that should be the new NFL logo. Like he was just like sweep the leg. But that's just I think this offense, that's what's going to picture because it's fun and control. And he only can hit those plays like I talked about, the high option if the offensive line's playing well. So good shout out there.
I think I'm trying to remember them all right now. I think the Ravens have two of the 3 most impressive wins in the NFL so far this year. If I had to list them off, maybe 2 of the 4. Niners over the Cowboys, Bills over the Dolphins, the way that they dismantled them, and then the 2 Ravens wins, the one they had over the Lions, the one they had over the Seahawks. I mean, they have easily the highest point differential in the NFL, especially after this game. I mean, their ability to dismantle these good teams, I think they're pretty undeniably the best team in the NFL right now, even with the Eagles sitting there at 7-1. Or 8-1.
No, I absolutely think they are. I think definitively. I feel so good. Like I just love. It's really fun to watch this team because they're well coached. And they have awesome players. What's better than that? That is the Ravens right now. So I totally agree with you. I think they're number 1 with a bullet right now.
Let's get to our next one here. The Kansas City Chiefs. You have my attention. We talked about the Chiefs a lot over the last couple of weeks, their defense specifically on our preview shows, and what they did to the Dolphins today. I mean, this is the best performance that they've had this season. And I think a real announcement that we are dealing with something different on defense for Kansas City this year. You know, I think a lot of people were noticing it. The numbers are there, but this was to a national audience with nothing else going on, them really showing everybody what we're dealing with when we're talking about the Chiefs offense this season.
The fumble return for touchdown was like a nice little symbolism for this defense with just like 3 different defensive backs getting involved and more blocking. Like it was honestly, that was like a celebration of how they've been playing and just so much changing the picture after the snap. They were running man coverage. They're being physical to Tyreek Hill, but they're also doing the stuff to what I think can help hinder this offense and sometimes changing the picture on Tua. But just watching like Justin Reed and Brian Cook communicate on the back end, it's like, yeah, this is great.
How well they handled all the motions. I mean, just completely locked in. And I loved watching them affect the game in all these different ways where you have the blitzes that we know are coming, right? Like the first Watson sack where they bring him off the edge, they bring a linebacker, they drop Karlaftis into coverage, and it's free rusher sack. The sack that McDuffie had a little bit later in the game, they don't bring a linebacker, but they still drop Karlaftis, and McDuffie gets a sack coming off the edge. So you have like the blitzing ninja bullshit that we have with Spags all the time. The physicality that they consistently had with those receivers at the line of scrimmage the entire game and disrupting timing. Sometimes it's a little overzealous. Snead got dinged for a hold on one of them, but that aspect of it where we're going to disrupt timing this entire game, we don't care. That's what we're doing. And then again, the physicality and willingness to tackle on the perimeter from everybody on the second and third level of the defense showing up again. Tramari Connor on the first drive has like a TFL / tackle for like a 1-yard gain. And it's just like, this is it. Like every single one of those guys back there is going to bring that sort of mentality, mindset, presence on the back end. And against this team that all they want to do is gash you on the perimeter, it showed up more than it typically would. But this has been a consistent thing for them all season.
Yeah, I mean, again, like the fumble return was just there being physical, just taking it to them on a bubble look and not playing off and scared and backing up. No, they went forward when most teams go backwards against this offense. But what you're saying, the physicalness, like how we've both kind of like have noticed, especially last year in the second half of last year, is how much a better tackling team they are. Like Justin Reed was an upgrade in that way, and he kind of sets the tone for that. And there was a play that just sticks out in my mind. And it was actually a completion for a first down for the Dolphins, but it was to Tyreek Hill. It was like on a slant, I think it was an inbreaker of some sort. But then the corner tackles him right away. So it goes for like an 8-yard gain, but I've seen that go for a touchdown, like easily, like with this team with Tyreek Hill. But it's just like that. It's like only one explosive pass, I believe, the whole day. It's like if you can limit that explosives, and like that is usually the thorn in Chiefs defense or Spag's side. And now they're taking away that. Yes, you can get them after him in the run game a little bit. The Dolphins did in the second half, but it's like they still make it tough. And they're physical. And this was without their top linebackers or top linebacker. So it's a really good unit. And I thought this was a really fun performance. This is another defense that's going to be definitely on the all 22 watch, because going against this offense, this is a real test, and it's a funky offense, and performing this way. Yeah, that's tip of the cap.
There was a 3rd and 9 early in the game. I believe it was in the first quarter, where they had a completion, but it was an illegal shift. It was like a beautiful throw on a corner route that Tua had, and it was a legal shift. It was 3rd and 14. And you talking about like a play in space that actually seems not that important, but really kind of exemplifies the game. On a 3rd and 14, they had a little shovel pass to
I think it was 10.
I can't remember.
No,
it was 26.
It was back. It was back. Oh,
yeah.
I know who it is.
Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Okay?
Run it back.
It's shovel pass, and Tranquil makes a play in space. Salvin Ahmed. Jesus. We're getting later, and we're getting too late in the day. So it's a shovel pass, and Tranquil makes that play in space. If he doesn't make that tackle, that's going for a first down. That absolutely is going for a first down. And there were so many of those today. And then the other one I wanted to point out, I tweeted this out earlier, just such a stupid play, but to me, it's like, that's why this team is good right now. In the second half, the first drive that the Dolphins had, there was 2nd and 8, and they had a chunk run to Mostert, and McDuffie was holding down on the edge, and he just refused to get reached on the edge by one, the receiver, and then two, and Connor Williams looping around, and he draws a holding penalty on that play. And a corner just refusing to give up the edge on that play and drawing a hold. That to me is like what this Chiefs defense feels like right now.
He's scrappy. That's what they are.
He's a first-round pick.
He's a first-round pick. I know. He's fun. And how they use him in the slot is just good stuff. They're all scrappy. That's what they are. It's a scrappy unit, but also just up front, like Carl Loftus is playing well. Like they get pushing, they push in the pocket. But then real quick too is like, it's funny watching this Dolphins offense, and it's like it's as much as how exciting their pass game can be. It's like they need that run game to live and breathe. Like it was just, it feels so, and like credit to the Chiefs for making it tough on them in the first half, but in the second half, it was like, oh, here it comes. It felt so much more alive. And so like, that's when you're seeing that unit and seeing that Dolphins team, it's like, that is so key. And it becomes even more apparent when they're kind of struggling or kind of, struggling, lack of air in their offense a little bit.
They had 12 yards to go was the average on 3rd down for the Dolphins today.
Yeah, that's tough.
And it felt like that. And against Spags, it's just hard to live that way.
Yeah.
Couple other things kind of tangentially related to the conversation about the Chiefs defense. Okay. The Dolphins have a pretty drastic split this year between teams that are awful that they're destroying and really good teams that they're struggling against. Do we feel like there's some validity to this? Do you think this is something that we're going to continue to see moving forward?
I think so. I think the better units, especially the better defenses that have offenses that can at least keep up, AKA the best teams, are the ones that are going to give them issues. So like I said, I kind of feel similar to like the Bills. I feel like this is a valid playoff team because their offenses are good and I feel like they can find answers, but I do think that when they can't score 30 points, like, are they going to lose every game? Like, that's kind of an issue. That's a real issue if you want to be a real team.
Good defenses have given them trouble over the last couple of years. I mean, they look like a different team when they're playing against top 5, top 7 sort of defenses. And you look at what the AFC playoff picture is going to be this year. The Ravens and the Chiefs are going to be involved in this conversation. These are the types of teams that you're going to have to beat to get there. So I definitely think that's worth keeping an eye on. On the flip side, the Chiefs did not score in the second half.
Right. That's fun.
And there
Yeah.
obviously
It wasn't a
lot of
drop by Sky Moore to blame on either.
there was not a drop by Sky Moore to blame it on. A lot of the discourse around why the Chiefs offense has struggled this year is twofold. One, they've struggled to run the ball. They've consistently struggled to run the ball. That continued again today. Yep. Two, secondary pass catchers, creating separation, all of that. I feel like there was probably some of that today. Again, you want to go back and watch it, but it did feel like the Dolphins were doubling Travis Kelce a lot, or just sending extra bodies his way. But to me, the biggest issue for Kansas City today was they just couldn't hold up front. I mean, they just really struggled to consistently give him time against some of those stunts. And I don't know if that's more of a comment on what the Dolphins front is going to be able to do over the rest of the season. That's a very talented group when all of those guys are healthy, or if that's just one more thing to file away as we're having some issues and some concerns about what the Chiefs offense is.
Yeah, I think passing game wise, I think they're figuring it out. It's just that they're having some growing pains as they're trying to sort through all this. And again, I think I said this last week. It's like must be really nice to have guys like Mahomes and have this type of team where you can kind of just work through things in the regular season. You don't even need a bye week to do it. So that's why I feel pretty good that they're still winning games against the Dolphins team that, yes, is still like has a good record. I mean, they're 6-3. So, and like they've given teams issues. So it's, yeah, I feel still okay about it. Like, because it is a little worrisome to me. Maybe some get off the opening script kind of stuff too. I think maybe sometimes some of the ad lib stuff, and I think even sometimes the run game is frustrating. I'm still trying to figure out why. Bless you. But also, yeah, but then I watch Mahomes make some freaking awesome throws, and then I see the Jerick McKinnon touchdown, and I'm like, oh, there's some nice design stuff, because that was a tendency breaker. They usually don't release the running back that way. They release them across the formation, or they release them on swings, and so it's a burst release. You burst to the field. So if you ever, that's what a burst route, I should say. Burst release is actually a receiver thing. Burst route by the running back. He bursts to the field. But he is going through that, and that was a tendency breaker, like I said. So it's like, oh, okay, they can still do that kind of stuff. Like, that's why the Dolphins linebackers dropped him. That's why Mahomes was holding on the ball, because he knew that was going to pop open. So it's like, they can still do that. They still have Travis Kelce. They still have Mahomes. They still have this offensive line that I still trust, even if they do have had some moments today. So I still think they're just like a pretty damn good team. Like, I still think they're up there. Like you mentioned the Eagles or Ravens. I still think the Chiefs are still in that kind of tier as well.
I also think so. I mean, I think their offense is absolutely going to figure it out.
They're the 1 seed.
I believe they're going to figure it out. I think when you have that guy, an offensive line that's going to play much better than it did today, and the defense playing the way that they are complete enough that I think they're a very scary proposition. It's frustrating to see different issues cropping up. Where today was pass protection. Some games it's a drop here or there. Some days it's just separation among your secondary pass catchers. Some days it's the running game isn't working. But being able to lean on your defense as you work through some of that stuff, very comforting. And that's where they are right now. So
and that's why I feel good about them long term. It's like they're gonna have good unit on both sides. As long as they stop Mecole Hardman starts fielding punts with his heels touching the end zone. That is an epidemic right now. There is some bad punt returning happening right now.
That is happening, and I can't. I'm done with the wide receiver handoffs and jet sweeps and touch passes on 3rd and 2. I'm done.
Yeah, the short yard stuff, man.
I ultimately deleted the tweet because the stat was actually wrong, because that was a pass. The tip pass to Hardman was a pass. But before that play, before the Mecole Hardman -7 yard completion in a short yardage situation, they had 11 carries for 18 yards this year on handoffs to receivers. Okay. 11 carries for 18 yards. And then it was a -7 yard completion to Mecole Hardman. So if we're lumping that in, just for the sake of this conversation, we're talking about 12 receiver touches in the backfield for 11 yards. And they've lost like 10 points of EPA on those plays. Just stop doing it.
I know.
Just stop doing it.
I know they get like praised. They're always like, oh, we're always in the Chiefs building. We're trying to one up each other with our ideas and like all these crazy designs. It's like, maybe just like design a good zone run play. Like maybe just have like a nice like stick route from Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce. Like, just like a quick little out route like that.
Just the play action rollout that he had to the flat where he threw, I can't remember who it was completion to, but just more of that stuff. And they ran the ball on 3rd and 1. and
Yeah.
I think got a little shit for it today and when they ultimately didn't get it. That's fine. Like you don't have to run it, but just put the ball in his hands in some of
Yeah.
those moments if you're going to do anything. So they continue to be very frustrating, but they also continue to win as they do it.
I know. Usually teams do the Wildcat quarterback because they're like, oh, we got to gum and toothpicks this offense, not because not usually don't do it when you have the best player in the world at the position.
Though I will say the contrast of watching what the Eagles can do in short yardage compared to what the Chiefs can do in short yardage because they refuse to sneak the quarterback, that matters.
Yeah.
Like that over the course of the season, that little advantage in high leverage moments is going to matter. And I think that we are consistently seeing it crop up with the Chiefs in a way that's kind of maddening.
That's a great point. Every Eagles game, it's not 1st and 10. It's like 1st and 7.
Yeah.
Because it's a race to get, once they get in there, they can just sneak it.
Advantage.
It's huge. It's huge, especially right now in this league, how good defenses are playing right now. It's a huge advantage.
Last one here. CJ Stroud. You have my attention. Holy shit.
Gatling gun. Yeah.
That guy is, I cannot wait to keep watching him play football.
Same.
I mean, the ball placement, some of the stuff that he's doing out of structure, the deep throw he had to Tank Dell for the touchdown. I mean, just he's got a handful of throws. Even last week when they struggled against Carolina, there was still a handful of throws. And it's like, this guy is must-see television right now. 470 yards, record for a rookie quarterback, 0.71 EPA per attempt in this game today. 0.71. Again, for context, you lead the league typically at like 0.25.
Yeah.
That's what MVPs do. So that is how good he was today. 5 for 5, 75 yards and a touchdown on the game-winning drive that began with 46 seconds left on the clock.
It was wonderful. His target chart was art. It's this guy plays the quarterback position exactly how you want it. He's so accurate. He has such a quick throwing motion. He can push the ball when he needs to. His mechanics, timing, footwork, like it's teach tape. I've always said Dak is kind of my teach tape guy. Like Dak, Kirk Cousins, and like CJ Stroud. They're the guys I would teach like a high school quarterback and be like, just watch this guy. Yeah, you see that? Zero fat in any of his footwork, any of his motion. Ball comes out so quick and he just puts it on the money every time. And he throws guys open. He can layer throws in. He's awesome. I love him. He's become one of my favorite quarterbacks already. He's half a season into his career. He is so much fun to watch.
I'm trying to find the way to describe this because it's not that he changes arm angles in the way that we see with a guy like Stafford, a guy with like Lamar, where he's getting the ball off in crowded pockets just by changing his arm slot. He almost changes arm trajectories in ways that are really conducive, where he'll float the ball over someone, or he has to like get a little bit like on his tippy toes and like release it from like a somewhat higher point. Like the ways that he's getting some of these throws off in muddy situations, I don't really know how to describe it. Like I've never really seen someone do this in the way that he is, because it's not as flashy as some of those Lamar or Stafford things, but it's just as important when things get a little bit crowded.
The touchdown to Tank Dell, I mean, it wasn't a crowded pocket, but it was that one is just a perfect example of that, of just like how he's able to like reset without making it a whole operation.
Yes.
And I think that's what his like movement to throw is very quick, if that makes sense. I don't want to compare him to this guy, but I'm saying like, this is like what I always think of. Like Marino was always like, just the ball was out, but there's just that quick throwing motion. One of my favorite reply people on Twitter, follows on Twitter, and I can never remember his name, but he had a great comparison with Stroud. He's like, it's almost like Kurt Warner, and where he's fearless. And he just stands in there and he's always in attack mode, but he's so accurate and how he just like those feet aren't moving, but he's getting the ball out so quickly and it's always perfectly on time. He'll push the ball when he needs to. He'll throw the ball over the middle over and over. And he does it over and over. But that, like I said, that first touchdown of Tank Dell, it was a double move. And the shoulder fake into the throw was just so quick. And he throws it. The anticipation on it throws it into the back corner of the end zone. When he's releasing the ball, Tank Dell's at like the 12-yard line. It's just that's unguardable.
And the whole shot was ridiculous. on that final drive. I mean, just an unbelievable throw. His ability to layer throws like that. And it was my favorite thing about him coming out of college. There was a throw he made against Michigan that was a corner throw. I think probably a little shallower than the one to Tank Dell today, but it was my favorite throw I saw him make in like the 5 games that I watched. He just drops it down the left sideline on a corner route, and the touch he puts on that ball and the placement on those second and third level throws is my favorite thing about him as a quarterback. And that's exactly what we're seeing him do in the NFL. Like, so many things about his game, stuff that was very much on display over all of the tape, ball placement, accuracy, things like that. But then seeing those little nuggets of off-schedule playmaking and creation that we saw in those last couple games, it's everything you wanted from his evaluation, where the stuff that's consistent, we know we're going to get, the stuff that he showed in flashes when things get dirtier, muddier, harder in the NFL, can that just be who he is? The answer so far has been yes. Like, those little flashes that we got were enough to make you feel good about him in these sort of situations, and he's consistently shown it. And today was just another example of that.
How do people always try to like tier quarterbacks to say this is a guy you can win with, and this is a guy you win because of? Stroud is you win because of. Like, he already is making his teammates better as a freaking rookie when defenses it's harder to play quarterback than ever, and he's doing it. He's the real deal. I mean, he is just a real deal NFL quarterback, and like a top 10 one right now. It's fantastic watching him. The AFC South could be freaking loaded with QBs when Anthony Richardson gets back. Holy crap. That's awesome. Like, I mean, legit 3 guys. Hopefully Levis works out, and then we can just get 4. Just like, let's go for it. Like, that'd be fantastic.
Levis had some really nice moments on Thursday. I know they lost.
I was a Levis apologist, so I'm okay with him if he does okay. Like, he does some. He's fun.
I have no issues with him doing okay.
He got the Stafford comparisons because he's all trick shots, and it could be a really fun. It could be really fun to watch, but he can have some dummy moments as well.
My lukewarm opinion of the first game that he has is that we didn't get to see him do that much.
No,
he wasn't asked to do that much.
I know. He was
asked to do way more in the first half of that game against the Steelers. And so even though they lost that game and the second half was a disaster, I feel better about him coming out of that game than I did about the 4 touchdown game, because I actually had to watch him play quarterback in the NFL, and he did a pretty darn good job.
Against a good defense. And also, yes, totally agree. Everything you just said, that's exactly it. It was because the first game just felt fake. It was just designer shot plays, and you don't know how sustainable that is. That's why we mentioned that. So I totally agree with what you said. Thursday night was much better.
We'll talk about this a little bit later. I don't want to spend too much time on it now. I want to have a conversation about the Titans quarterback strategy and what they have done over the last couple of years, because I had some doubts about it. And I was like, oh, what are they doing? Like, they really needed to come away from this draft with a quarterback. But I think that there's some merit to what they've done. And I actually think it's put them in a pretty decent spot. So we'll save that for a show a little bit later this week. For now, we're going to get to some less than ideal aspects of today. It's time for I'm Not Mad, I'm Just Disappointed.
We're still cool, man. We're still cool. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
We're not going to talk about any games today or any performances today. Well, any team's performances today. I'm going to let you use this space today to just talk about how you feel about the officials and what today, reffing, and what it was like for you.
I mean, Josh Allen pointed at a player today and got a flag for it, which was pretty funny. But there was a moment in the Cowboys-Eagles game, even though it ended up not mattering because the Cowboys ended up scoring a touchdown on the next play, that has me just infuriated because on the play, the Cowboys have a 6 offensive lineman, and he declares when you have a 6 offensive lineman, they have an ineligible number. Any number between 50 and 79 is ineligible. And he declares, and Dak I don't think they announce it. So you could see Dak looking at the umpire and going like, hey, did he declare? And then he goes, oh, okay, he did. All right. And then snap the ball, and then they throw a flag for illegal formation, saying he was not covered up because he has an illegal number, an eligible number. And even though he confirmed, even though he said he was eligible, and they didn't announce it. And it was just one of those moments where it was like, what the hell was that? And this just continues throughout the NFL. Simple operation stuff. I'm watching. I'm not even like, that game's on mute for me. And I'm just like, it's a multi-box screen. And I'm just glancing at it. How can I tell that? And you guys can't tell that guy, this 320-pound guy walked up to you and said, hey, I am eligible. We do 6 offensive linemen often. I probably have already done this in this game. I should have looked up that they have, but oh my God, the emphasis on the full weight on the QBs for the roughing the passers. I get it. Like they emphasize that. Okay, quarterbacks are dropping like flies. It's usually when they're scrambling guys. It's not really those type of hits. But even Dean Blandino is kind of like exhausted of explaining it. Like they cut to him on one. He's already rolling his eyes. He's like, guys, this is just what the NFL is emphasizing. I mean, yeah, I know, but he's just shrugging his shoulders. Like, what do you want him to do? So,
weren't there some stuff in the Bears Saints game that you were also getting disgusted by? It was a crew that was not doing a great job last week.
Oh, the whole first half operation.
Game.
They had a spot on the ball moment. Thank you. I did have a moment. Yeah, same crew. Who is it? Torbert. Yeah, but their crew. I've learned that they're working through some new members on their crew. I had some people reply to me about that, but they had a 4th and 1 situation with the Bears where the ball got moved up and down like 3 times, and the Bears tried to challenge the spot, I believe, and it was like a whole situation. And they like wouldn't announce it, and they switched like they're announcing. It took like 7 minutes, like 8 minutes to figure out this 1-yard spot. But yeah, that was just a fantastic moment. But they had a whole bunch of those in that game because that was one of the boxes I had, the bottom right box of my multi-view. They're not even a sponsor right now, are they? So it just keeps using it. But seriously, that was just another one where I was just watching it. I was like, what are you guys doing? Like this, like they're supposed to have the over the air stuff to like really like clean up stuff, which it's happened. I've seen some nice moments where they actually do a good job of it, but there's a lack of communication, lack of transparency, a lack of accountability that's happening right now. And that's what I mean. It's not a guy missing a PI call, a pass interference call, or a holding. It's operation, which is the number one thing that they should be responsible for. And it's the number one thing they can control. So just want a little bit more out of your refs. So I'm already always disappointed in you. And it's just like even more disappointed. Also disappointed in punt returning, but I already used that kind of rant earlier.
I was so worried after the taunting call. And then there was, I think, a couple other iffy calls early in the Bills-Bengals game. I was like, if you guys ruin this fucking game,
right,
I don't know what I'm going to do. And because it felt like that at the end of the Eagles game. I mean, even like there was the PI against the Cowboys. It was like, what the hell is going on here? It just
passer on the last Cowboys drive was
it's and I mean one of the Washington Patriots game, which we're not going to talk about otherwise. We're actually going to chat with Ben Standig for Kiefer and the Beats tomorrow, but that one from Washington was like, that's one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my entire life. It was just a sack. It was just a sack, and it's a roughing the passer. That's my least favorite type of call. The body weight roughing the passer stuff is my least favorite type of call.
They're saying
the fact we're seeing so many of them is just
they're like telling them to round up on it, and it's like I get, but you have to use some human logic here. Like there has to be some just
it should be the opposite of that.
Exactly. And I mean the intentional grounding on Josh Allen tonight, and I get it. They're saying, oh well, we can't tell the route, so we can't just use your freaking eyes. Like what do you think happened? And then honestly, that's a sore subject for me. The Colts Raiders 2016. New Year or Christmas Eve, Derek Carr gets hurt.
Yeah.
Play before he gets hurt. We're winning. I think we're 2 scores, and we're fourth quarter, I think, is when he gets hurt. We're about to ice the game. And then I think we're about to kick a field goal. That's what it was. We're near the high red zone. Derek gets an intentional grounding because Seth Roberts runs the wrong route. And so we get intentional grounding. We have to throw the ball. He gets hurt. And if not, we would have been in red zone. No big deal. We would just kick the field goal, and it would have been so that's like a sore subject. That call specifically, that type of penalty. So clean it up, refs. Sorry. I just
listen. You had a lot of grievances that you wanted to air, and I completely respect that because it was frustrating. All I want them to do is not. All I want to do is watch a game and not feel like some influence, whether it's a call, whether it's the operation, whatever, is encroaching on the flow of the game and what it feels like to watch the game. That's it. All I want is to know. All I want to like realize and all I want to think is I don't notice that they're there. That's the only thing I want to feel. And it's becoming harder and harder to do that.
Absolutely. Also, real quick last thing is special teams hidden yards are huge this year. With offense being so hard. Like I was just watching Turpin with the Cowboys and what he was doing, and like just create those extra hidden first downs. and making the other team get those first downs. It's like when the offense is really hard to come by, when points are really hard to come by, those are huge. And it's becoming kind of like a sneaky thing I'm kind of keeping an eye on, because some of the bad ones are ones that are standing out more than some of the good ones. But really, that's it.
All right, let's get to a few more things from that today. It's time for the Sunday Notebook. I'd like to chat about just a couple little observations, couple moments from Sunday, and let's start with what Josh Dobbs did in that game against the Falcons. I want you to just try to describe and explain how impressive it is for a guy who didn't practice, who's never had any reps, when they were running the no huddle stuff. And
that was the best part.
He's doing it at the line of scrimmage. I was like, how is he even doing this? Like, I don't know how you would understand what that operation looks like at the line of scrimmage when you've never even practiced with the team that you're playing on right now.
Well, you're saying that you didn't even know half his teammates' names, which I understand. That's very hard. I'm terrible at names myself. So, but this is one cool thing with that. A lot of guys from the Shanahan offense and this terminology are spreading throughout the league, is that when guys switch teams, they can translate it a little better. Sure. So I do think that's probably what helped a lot, but it's so freaking hard. I mean, I've heard stories about signing guys. Brooks Bollinger told a story. He got signed by the Lions to start a 4th preseason game, and they signed him like 4 days before the game. And they said, okay, like Scott Linehan was calling the play, and he would just tell him, hey, this is just our version of stick. Like, like just read it inside out. Like he would just like tell him like, hey, that's how you're gonna have to read this play. And I think that's probably what some of it happened. It seemed like that last touchdown was they had a red zone plays are designer plays, so they practiced all week. Probably he is just kind of seeing it. They probably told him like, look at the slot, and because the whole way he's looking at Powell the entire time, he was going there hell or high water. But I mean, they scrapped together this win. Like, good for them. And Dobbs' scrambles were fantastic. He took the ball in his hand. Like, some of his scrambles were some of the best plays in the league today. So like, good on them. He's a smart guy. He's a fun player to watch. He did some nice things for the Cardinals this year. Wasn't always perfect, but this is really, really impressive and something you don't really see ever. Like, I've just brought up a preseason example. This is ridiculous to see in the regular season, and a kind of a, pretty kind of swingy game in the NFC.
Yeah, and it reminds me a little bit of what happened with Baker Mayfield last year when he got to LA and he played on like 1 day's notice. He was learning the plays essentially on the plane. But again, doing the no huddle stuff without knowing the offense was wild to me. And some of the stats, Kevin Seifert, who writes for ESPN, said that Dobbs in the huddle was like, all right, what do I have on this side of the play? And guys were just telling him what it was. And our Alec Lewis, so he said that Josh Dobbs said KOC was essentially translating calls and mapping out plays mid-huddle as the play clock was ticking down. He called Dobbs' ability to handle it one of the most impressive things that he has seen in his career. This idea of, he's a rocket scientist, that shit is so overplayed all the time. In this moment in particular, this guy being like the smartest player on the field was hugely important.
That's what's insane to me, because every offense, I just said that they use the same terminology, but every offense has their own translation of it. Like, it's like I interpret it this way. So it's a common formation for me with the Vikings might be totally different than what I just ran with the Cardinals. And so he might know the words, but it's probably like, it sounded like how Yoda talks, where it's like, okay, those words are right, but they're in different spots than I'm expecting, or that's like a different flavor. Yeah. So I think that's what he probably had to like translate in his head. So I know, but I'm sure that's what it was. Every play, they probably had to get the play call in so quick. So KOC before 15 seconds hits, they probably just like, all right, you got to read this. This is pure progression read, or you got to like, hey, if it's too high, you do this, you kill it. If it's single high, like just real quick, trying to give him plays. So good on them. I mean, it was fun to watch those scrambles. The Falcons started trying to bait it, and like with some of the pressures and get them kind of going to the left. And then it just kind of like blew up in their face a couple of times. It was always to the right. So it was a scrappy win. We talked about scrappy with the Chiefs defense. This was a scrappy win. It was pretty interesting.
It's an awful loss for the Falcons.
Terrible.
I mean, it is potentially like a season-changing loss for the Falcons today.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They need a buy, and I need a buy from them. They need to go back to Ritter. I've seen enough of Heineke. Everyone owes me an apology. I know they got to go back to Ritter. I've seen enough. That's the exact same guy. Heineke's the exact same guy. He should have like 6 picks today. Like it was. Yeah.
And it's the conversation we had on Thursday. We're like, all right, you want to limit the downside and the potential turnovers that you're going to have. And then I watched him throw. I would love to see what PFF's going to say, like turnover worthy plays, like how many he had today. I bet it's at least 4 or 5.
Oh yeah.
And that's
on the same route.
Your
it was kick routes over and over. Yeah.
So it was certainly frustrating. Just another entry into a Falcons team that I truly struggle to understand.
The two teams that need the bye week the most are the Bills and the Falcons. They need to take a deep breath as a team right now. I need a bye from them.
One more thing you wanted to mention or chat about here really quickly.
Yeah.
Kenny Moore, 2 pick sixes today and some nice moments from the Indianapolis Colts defense, which is not something we've been able to say all year.
No, they've had some rough ones the last couple of weeks, but they were feisty. I know the Panthers offense kind of helps you. It's a little mouthwash, but he had 2 pick sixes, 115 yards on returns. Gardner Minshew threw for 127 yards today. So yeah, that's some creating some talk about creating some first downs. There it is right there, creating some points. But they're winning up front. I mean, DeForest Buckner was a monster today. Even some of the rookies had some nice moments. I've been interested in watching this defense, and this might be giving me an excuse to study them. Might be a good game to study. They look shiny, but I just feel like that they're doing some nice things. Like I like some of the players. I can see some paths here to, like putting something together down the road. Which is, God, I want Richardson.
That's all that matters, right? And the fact that we're all right. So we get some glimpses from the defense. We got some glimpses from Josh Downs, even though he got hurt today. It's like, oh, Bernard Raymond's been really solid at left tackle. He's a guy you drafted in the 3rd round last year. Like that is all you need from a team at this stage. Like what sort of little coins can we pick up along the road here? And we're like, all right, these are our building blocks that we're going to have moving forward. So any sort of flashes you can get from them on both sides of the ball, you're going to take it at this point.
Yeah, and their 2nd round pick this year, the corner Juju Brents, he looks like a keeper. So that's a hit too for a team that desperately needed talent at that position. That's pretty cool that when he's been banged up, but one of these kind of long guys that can be project-y actually is kind of making big strides early.
He was a trades guy. I mean, that he's another guy who's get drafted on height, weight, speed. That's all of their draft class this year. So,
but they're actually playing well.
Encouraging to see that kind of stuff. Last thing here. What a day for the Raiders. What a day for the Raiders.
My best bet.
The report over the last 24 hours. I mean, it's come up in a bunch of different places. I think Ian Rappaport had it first, and then Jay Glazer talked about it on TV today. The team meeting where Josh McDaniels kind of cedes the floor to Antonio Pierce, who brings up the 07 Giants beating the Patriots. And reportedly, Josh McDaniels was like, don't you ever do that again. And all you need to know beyond the performance today, which we've seen this a million times, right? Coach gets fired, team played great, they're in a great mood. The scenes from the locker room, both this week and today, the Devontae Adams playing basketball, the fact that they had a basketball hoop in the locker room, and then them just smoking cigars and just having the time of their lives today in that locker room after the game. I cannot even comprehend how much all of those guys collectively disliked Josh McDaniels.
It sounded miserable, man. But it was the energy that they played with today. I saw Devontae Adams blocking his ass off. And so that's how you know. Because this offense, watch Jacoby Myers just be a heat-seeking missile, digging out some of those safeties. And so it was just nice, like just a little modernness to the offense. They also fired the offense coordinator as well. And like the quarterback, I thought O'Connell played fine. I can't call him AOC. It's just like that's but he's had a nice operation from there. But they just were in the gun a little bit more. They had like jet sweeps. Like it's like, oh, you're just using your guys, just using your players well. Like, thank you. But yeah, you could just feel that. Yeah, saw some RPOs as well, but it just really did feel like I talked about mouthwash game. This was just mouthwash for an entire franchise. It must have been miserable, man. Like this, especially as the league has gone more fun. Like I would say, like respecting players.
Yes, I think the dynamic between players and coaches has certainly shifted over the last several years. I think that there is a collective and two-way respect.
Yep,
and just all right, we're going to hear each other. We're going to be on a more equal plane. And that's how we're going to interact. That I think has become the norm. And so when you hear about a situation that's so far outside of that, it becomes even more notable. And I think that's what was going on with the Raiders. Clearly.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. It's an old way of thinking. That's how it used to be, especially with quarterback play. It used to be the worst. It was like that ball is out right there. And you have no input. It's like, I don't like throwing that route. Like that's how the old coaches used to be. I'm so glad he brought up the Patriots Giants story. I had a note on it, but I wasn't going to bring it up. So I'm so glad you told that because
it's insane. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I mean, when the whole point of the meeting
Get over yourself.
is for you to hear out the guys that are struggling and we're trying to figure out what's going wrong here.
Yeah.
It's, oh my God.
Tone deaf.
Well, don't have to worry about it anymore. So
No.
see what happens with them moving forward. We'll see what happens with him moving forward. But a nice moment for during what has been a very frustrating, very tough season, I think, for the Raiders. Also from this game, obviously, Daniel Jones suffered what we believe is supposed to be a torn ACL. We are going to talk to Dan Duggan tomorrow on Kiefer and the Beats. Kiefer and the Beats tomorrow is Mays and the Beats because Zach Kiefer is in Germany. So I am going to step in tomorrow, take over. We're also going to have Ben Standig coming on to talk about the Washington football team. They had a very, obviously, eventful week last week, trading away multiple guys. Some of the reports, I think, around Sam Howell and his future, I want to ask Ben about, and how central he is to their plans, what the Josh Harris era looks like in the early stages. Actually, obviously talk to Dan about not only the Daniel Jones injury and what it means for this season, but where the Giants go moving forward here, because they're just in such a different spot than we anticipated them being coming into the season. And Alec Lewis, our Vikings writer, is going to come on to talk all things Josh Dobbs and what the last 48 to 72 hours were like up there in Minnesota. So please come check that out. Happy to be standing in for Zach. For now, though, that is all we got. Sincerely appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.